let's talk about Christian men and I don't know if I can say the word PORN. I should probably look up and see if I can say the word. I don't know if I can say it. I don't want to get this video flagged for any reason. But that's what he's going to talk about. Christian men and PORN. Rhymes with corn. Just put a P in the front of it. Hey guys, Timmy Gibson here, former fundamental evangelical tongue talking, Holy Ghost rolling, Bible thumping preacher, pastor. Did that for 30 years. Spent 48 years as an evangelical Christian. Been an atheist now for a minute, and yeah, check out all my videos. I have lots of videos out there telling my story, telling you my journey. So yeah, this one is something that I find curious for so many reasons, okay? And I'm going to be, as I always try to be, as vulnerable and just straightforward as I can in talking about this particular topic, because, the truth will set you free, right? Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of my past history. So I grew up in Overland Park, Kansas, and my first experience with porn, I think I was in elementary school, and I was walking home with one of my friends through the woods, and as you do in the woods, found I think a pack of cigarettes, and it was in a bag. And when you're a kid, you find something and you just start digging into it. You don't know what's in it, but you're curious what's in there. So we opened up this bag and there were some girly magazines in there. And of course, we did what young boys would often do, is we thumbed through them girly magazines, and it made our tummies tickle. And we hid those magazines so that every day after school, we could walk through the woods and stumble upon this precious gift. So that was my first entry into, dirty girly magazines. Okay, well, what we would call, that's what they were called then. I'll give you my opinion on all that kind of stuff here in a second. So then my second kind of encounter with the sounds like corn with a P, was when my family had moved into a duplex in a cul-de-sac, and right across from me was one of my buddies from school, and his parents had reel-to-reel porn, like reel-to-reel, like film, and you would start the projector and it would, and run the film, right? So yeah, you're like, Timmy, how old are you? So anyway, so that was my first experience with like a porn movie. And of course, how old was I? 13, 14, 15, so I mean, it was just like, wow. I mean, I was seeing things I didn't even know was real. I couldn't believe it. And then now stretch that out, obviously, I don't think you can be a human alive on the planet to not have seen porn in some way. I'm always so amazed at when when I was a pastor, and people would act like I never have seen it. Whatever. Like, right. And you also don't masturbate or never masturbated. I mean, it's just that's part of the church culture. I've done a video on that. The evangelical, the flavor of Christianity that I came out of. You have to lie, you have to hide. And I've said this before, but it bears repeating in this particular video. I don't know one. I literally do not know one Christian who didn't have some secret, some shenanigan, something whether it's something that, they preach against drinking, yet on vacation they drink. They preach against pornography, yet they struggle with it. They preach against this, and yet they do. Like, that's just prolific. It's just, what is that phrase? It just comes with the territory. It's just part of it. It's like wheels on a car. It just comes with it. Okay. Now, I don't know, obviously I don't know every Christian that's out there in the world. So, I can't tell you about every Christian in the world, but I was in the world for 48 years. I know a lot of Christians. I still know a lot of Christians, and ain't no one an angel, in the sense of when we think of an angel that's like spotless and perfect and never has, done anything wrong, never thinks a bad thought, etc. Right? And I think that's one of the biggest freedoms about being an atheist now. I don't have to hide anything. I don't have to hide. You know what I mean? And that's a beautiful, that's such a freedom to live your life honest. Look at the news, dear Lord. Every time you turn around, it's just another scandal of a pastor who's been caught in some kind of lie, and or some kind of a scandal, and then they lie about it. It's it's like getting old. It's like, can't anybody look around and just see the sham going on here? It's the weirdest thing, man. Anyway, let's get back on topic. So why do Christian men so struggle with adult films? Like, what are adult content? And again, as a former pastor and someone who led men's groups, who counseled men, again, I've never met a Christian man who didn't struggle with that. Okay. And why? I've really been given this, honestly, I've really been thinking, like, why is it such a struggle? And I'm talking about Christian men. I'm sure that any man like out there, I guess some struggle with it and they're not Christian, I would suppose. I've said this before. I've seen porn. I've watched enough porn in my life to be good. Porn's just not my personal jam, and I don't. I would tell you, if it was my jam, I would tell you, because I have no shame in it. It's just not my jam. And maybe there's guys out there like me that just like, yeah, of course, who doesn't like a nude woman? That's just, it's like that joke. What's that comedian? I can't think of his, Bill Engvall. He tells this story where he said he went to a biker bar, and he was talking about how, men are just nasty, men just nasty. And he was at this biker bar, and he said he was talking to this old biker chick, and he could tell her boobs were like hanging down to her belt. And she looks at him and she said, "You want to see him?" And he said, "You know what? I do." That's a man for you right there. Right? So listen, men are visual, right? And, women are too. I guess some women are too. Some women, I guess women probably look at porn too, I would assume. I don't know. I'm a dude, so all I know are dudes. But I know men are very visual. They're visually driven, right? I heard another story about how men and women are different, and I thought this was a great analogy, honestly. But this woman was talking to this guy and said that, no, I'm visual too. I'm just like a man, and when it comes to visual things. And he said, okay. The feeling that you get if Jennifer Aniston ran naked down the street, the feeling that it would give a man is different than for a woman that saw Brad Pitt running down the street. And I thought, that's interesting. That's just interesting. Though I'm getting off track. I know where I'm going with this, but I did have a friend. I kid you not. I have a friend that back when he was young, he's my age now. We're both in our 50s. So back in his early 20s, he was a Versace model. Like this dude traveled all over Europe. He's from America, but he got discovered because he has a twin brother. And him and his twin brother, super handsome guys, 6'2", just good looking dudes, chiseled jaw, you know. So anyway, he was a Versace model, traveled all around the world, and he also was a Chippendale dancer. Now, let me take that back. That's partially true. He was a Chippendale, period, not a dancer. He was the Chippendale that usually was out at the autograph tables. And in fact, he showed me he had an air freshener with the Chippendales on it, and he was one of them in the Chippendales picture. And he told me, this is just his words. Don't get mad at me. Don't throw no shade on me, girls. But he said, Timmy, he goes, I was a Chippendale, traveled all over the country with the Chippendale dancers as a Chippendale that would be more the model part of Chippendale. He said, women are wild. He said, trust me when I tell you. And he did tell me some stories that I just don't think I should share here. But crazy stories, right? He was living every guy's dream, So anyway, so outside of, we live in a very sexualized driven culture. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. And it's unfortunate, I think, that, women are so sexualized in so many ways. But what is the correlation between Christian men and adult film watching or adult content or pornographic stuff? Like, what is that? Because it's prolific. I mean, I see support groups in churches for men and adult content. Like, it's just rampant. It's just a rampant problem. And so here's what I think it is. I think it comes back to the sexual repression that happens in church. Again, the church culture that I grew up in, which is, sex is dirty, it's nasty, the devil kind of created it, but once you're married, then and only then can you do it under the blessing of the Lord, right? Well, of course that's going to set you up for failure. It's going to set you up for some twisted, creepy, weird stuff. It just is. It just is. And I remember my own struggle with porn. Whenever computers first came out, I keep dating myself here, but when computers first came out, well, let me take that back. That's not true. It's when I first got my first computer. Really, it was when I got my first computer, because computers had been out for a minute. Not a long minute, but a minute. But they were so expensive. I mean, I remember like laptops being like $8,000 or $9,000 for a laptop, with a 2-bit of RAM and a 386, like whatever. I mean, I can't remember all the stuff, but just not anything like what we have today. I mean, you can get a $100 laptop today that far exceeds anything that you could get back in the late 1990s. So anyway, that's when I got my first exposure. When I got a computer, I got signed up with AOL and all the stuff, and there were chat rooms and all that stuff. I remember coming across some things online, and I remember, you see one, you want to see more, and you want to see more, and it's like a drug. It drops in that dopamine for sure. Now, I realize it can stem from a lot of different things, right? If you're in an unhappy relationship and you're not getting that need met, I think that can lend to that. The novelty of it, there's a lot of different things, right? So anyway, I really do think that it stems from the sexual repression that is such a part of Christianity, where men can't be honest, they can't express themselves. Same with women, of course, but I'm talking from like a guy's, because I'm a guy, and you can't even do self gratification without guilt and shame, and clearly you can't actually do the deed with someone unless you're married to them. And so it just creates problems in someone's mind. It's like, it just creates some twisted, goofy, weird stuff. Now, I'm sure there's a million other reasons. I'm sure there's abuse and other things that can go on in someone's life that whatever. All right, let me end this video with this. So what do I think about porn? I have mixed emotions, and I'll be honest with you. Some of my thoughts could still be sprinkled with the Christian fairy dust of my life. I don't look at it as bad necessarily, but I also don't look at it as good necessarily, right? And of course, not all adult content is created equal, right? I mean, some of that stuff, I think most everyone would be like, that's sick. Like that's something's twisted and demented about that, right? I mean, I would think. I mean, I'm sure I could mention some stuff that most everybody would be like, ugh, right? Though, fantasy's fine, learning, using it as like a learning tool, to help you in your relationship, like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that with the body. Yeah, I didn't know that could happen. How do you get that out? Like, I mean, I guess like, you could utilize it in that way too. And it can be entertainment. It can be used for arousal. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different ways in which it could be used in a healthy way. But my take on it now, and listen, I do not judge anyone for doing whatever they want to do, right? I mean, if you're in a committed partnership, like, don't do it secretively though. Like, if you're doing that, then you have to tell your partner about it. Like, personally, I think that would be not right. You can't do something secret from your partner unless you both have agreed that we're going to have secrets, and that's okay. Then I guess that's okay. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't be doing something that you're hiding from your partner and, shutting your phone down real quick or having a secret password to hide stuff. Like, that's fucked up. So yeah, I don't think porn's bad, and I don't necessarily think it's good. Obviously, there is clearly porn that is bad. And, and I also know there's porn that is really geared more towards loving, instructional type videos, and that's fine. And it's also fun, entertainment, whatever, if everybody's doing it willingly and openly and honestly, to each their own. It's just like anything though. There's a lot of corruption in that world. I've heard stories, I've seen documentaries, I'm sure you have too, on just some of the not so savory stuff that goes on behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Women that are only doing it because they're paid to do it, and they don't want to do it, and they reluctantly do things because they desperately need the money, and it's more coercion. I mean, there's so many things involved there that is part of it. But I would say this. If you're a Christian dude and you've made it to the end of this video, I'm shocked. There's really only one way. If you have a problem with it, like if it's really a problem, then I just don't. You're only as accountable as you are accountable to yourself. Accountability partners don't really work because they can't be with you all the time, and you can lie to an accountability partner. But seek help. Like, if you really have a problem, you need to seek help. There's a part of me that just wants to say, just stop. Just quit doing it. If it's a real problem. Now, if you're a Christian and you're married and you're doing that stuff secretively, I know you got to keep that secret. I know you got to keep that secret because, again, as a former Christian pastor who counseled couples, the wife caught the husband looking at porn. I mean, it's paramount to cheating. It is in the Christian world. I've known of couples to get divorced because she found out that he looked at porn. So, I think a couple things with that. One, I'm thinking, I think you made it, maybe you wanted out anyway. and this was just an easy ticket out. Like it just gave you the excuse to be like, yeah, he's addicted to porn, so I'm out. Well, you didn't really want to be in it anyway. Or, maybe he's just a lying sack of crap, and, you didn't want your future to be full of lies and crap. So I get that too. But, my contention is this. I really think the sexual repression in the Christian world has not helped. Let me just say it that way. It's not helped with people to be free when it comes to expressing themselves, living a free, whole, healthy life when it comes to things like that. So yeah, I really don't know what else to say about it, except that, if you have a problem, seek help, man. I mean, like for real, like it's just like with anything. I think just like alcohol, right? Alcohol can be fun. It can be, it can be fine, right? But we all know the dark side of alcohol too, right? And so, I view adult stuff, adult content similar to that, maybe used in the right context and under the right circumstances and whatever, it's fine. But it also can not be good. Especially if you're in a committed relationship, especially if you're doing that stuff secretively, it's just that in itself, anything you're doing secretively is just not going to be helpful to the relationship. But specifically that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know all the research that's out there, but I think I know enough of the research that it's definitely not a good thing for your relationship if you've got this, addiction going on over here, especially as it relates to that issue. All right, guys, cuss and discuss down below. Tell me your experience. Tell me what you think. I am very curious what your thoughts are on it, on the adult content thing. And cuss and discuss down below. Like, share, do all the stuff. I do have a Facebook group. If you want to join it, you have to be an atheist, agnostic, or going through a deconstruction process. Okay, no Christians allowed in there. It's called the Timmy's Deconstruction Community. Timmy's Deconstruction Community. It's on Facebook. All right, peace, everybody.